Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 19th edition of the ICC Biz Live. Today we have with us Professor Arindam Banik, the ICCR Chair of India Studies Economics at Samarkand State University, Uzbekistan. But he is much more than that. He's a doctorate, he's a postdoctorate, he's a consultant for World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and ILO, multiple organizations he has taught uh, in trade, in finance and management in IMI Delhi, IMI Kolkata, and in many other places. He's he's uh, he's too knowledgeable a person, and people regularly avail of his expertise. He has numerous books published. You can see them in Amazon, and he has numerous publication articles published, all in Scopus journals, mind you. There's a big difference between an ordinary journal and a Scopus journal. This I learned it the hard way while doing my own PhD, and I was fortunate to be his student for 2 years. So that way he's nothing but a sea of knowledge. So welcome, Dr. Bonik, and now we will begin our discussion with him. Our topic of discussion today is in Indian trade and in investment with respect to Asia. Now, Asia is divided into several trade blocks: Central Asia, ASEAN, and Asia Pacific region (APAC). So, and we want to begin with Central Asia, which is very uncommon as far as industry is concerned. ASEAN is common to many industry blocks. So Dr. Banik, Professor Banik, welcome to our show. We recently have had the fortune of listening to our External Affairs Minister, who had said that India's trade with Central Asia stands at $2 billion, with significant potential for much greater growth. But there are challenges, and he urged upon industry to overcome these challenges. So, our question to you: what are the challenges, and what is the way forward?
Thank you, Rajoshi, for your excellent adjective words you have used about me. I am also proud of you because you were hardworking and did a good job so far your PhD thesis is concerned. Now, actually, as you have rightly mentioned, the Central Asia is actually unexplored area. It was the countries were fragmented from former Soviet Union in 1990, 92. But you should also accept that so for Indians and pre-92 Soviet Union is concerned, we have an excellent relationship. So for Moscow-centric administration, or you can state specifically, as you said, Central Asia. Now, Central Asia is actually highly sensitive towards India. The factors are basically they feel that you can give credit to the Indian films, Raj Kapoor, Mithun Chakraborty. They are all quite popular here. If you go anywhere, Hindi song is quite popular, and they regularly see Hindu or Hindi movies and all that. That's one factor, which is basically cultural factor that influences. Second, this region defined by not only Uzbekistan, you could say 5 Central Asian republics, and then 3 Caucasian countries, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, and then your Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. All these 5 countries are quite, as I said, sensitive towards India. And these are the regions actually they feel that and give full credit to Babur because Babur from here went to India. As you know, he beat the rulers there in Punjab and Haryana, and then decided to settle there. And this is the only ruler decided to stay back in India. And then how he established his empire there. And uh, Uzbek people in particular were grateful that Babur link is equally an important factor. Because of these sensitive reasons, it's a cool position as far as India is concerned. Indians are highly popular, favorites here. I mean, that preconditions of investment or business is still existing there for the Indians. But we have major hurdles, as Rajoshi has rightly mentioned, $2 billion only business for these 5 Central Asian countries. Potentials are high, but then how to go about it? Now, if you see the logistic part, what we are doing historically, we have from Amritsar train to Afghanistan, Peshawar, and Peshawar they have extended lines to Uzbekistan and other areas. But then train lines are there, but then you cannot move. Simply the political reasons, Pakistan factor. Afghanistan was another factor, but in recent time, Afghanistan factor perhaps needs to be ignored because they are quite positive so far India's development is concerned. Because it's this kind of factor, we are unable to move. Means what? Means when you say move, their products, natural resources, minerals, they cannot go to India. Similarly, our product cannot come to India. I mean, our product mean export. So when you're finishing products are basically produced or manufactured in India, they cannot come to this part of the world. Simply that is a barrier defined by the political factors. The major factor which is actually impediment to the development of our relationships. But if you see, in contrast, if you see manufacturing nations such as China and Turkey, logistic-wise, they are very close. In fact, if you start a train from Shanghai, it will straight away going to Europe via Uzbekistan and other Central Asian countries. It's a huge business opportunity for China because there is no barriers there. And then perhaps our policymakers decided, well, forget about this Pakistan factor, but we have to do business with them. Then, the famous Chabahar port, government of India paid some $10 billion to Iran so that India can access the Chabahar port, and from Chabahar port to train the cokes or coals are coming from Russia and going to Chabahar port, from there by ship to the Bombay. Just 3 or 4 months develop. They have the process has started. But this aspect is actually how to take minerals from here or coals from here, and how we get Indian products from there to this part of the world. But even then, cost-wise, the manufacturing, you cannot beat the Chinese here because of the other factors. As you know, what we are facing, so for Russians, free trade with India, that's a different aspect. But then Indian policymakers, particularly current external affairs minister, our prime minister also visited Samarkand University about 3 years before. Then they decided that let's talk about investments. How Indians can do business here. One is the exports. The other one is actually what are the areas we can produce something here and then selling it to to European countries, or taking full advantage of the Central Asian republics. We have started the process. There are 8 pharmaceutical companies are now located in Tashkent, Reddy's Laboratories and others. What they are doing actually, one of the ingredients called API in pharmaceutical business, majorly 70% of the API is actually coming from China to India. Rest are coming from Scandinavian countries and America to Indian pharmaceuticals companies. But here, since minerals are cheaper, it is also possible to produce API from here with a lower cost, and then produce the medicine, and then finally not only taking advantage of the Central Asian market, but also take advantage of the European market. This is currently a strategy of the Indian government, that how to resolve that issue. The political factor, natural routes are not, we are unable to exploit it because of the Pakistan factor. So this process has started. I have a feeling, you mentioned $2 billion, but if you are following this way, perhaps there is huge opportunity even doing business from Chabahar, using Chabahar port and then going to Russia and going to other Central Asian republics and taking minerals from here to other parts of the world. And so far services are concerned, IT is English-speaking IT individuals are quite popular here with a lower cost. Here we can beat easily the Chinese. An IT individual with English medium background is a huge opportunity to business here. And Government of India has also focused that area. And third thing, Government of India thought that first train the people here, which is a famous iTech program, 1 month, 2 months program. They are from here, they are going to India in various educational institute, getting training, and then involved here. Suppose last 4-5 year strategies are actually alternate strategy, not using the traditional route which we had earlier during British time, and then after 47, but toying the idea of investments and then other routes and how to take full advantage of that situation.
So, sir, is your recommendation more India play a more active role in FDI? Another question, so that there may be non-tariff barriers, and if India makes outward investments, India's business with the Central Asian countries can grow. That is one question. And another question is, nowadays we are reading much about rare earths and China blocking their supply. Is Central Asia a source of rare earths or such minerals which are needed for electronic e-vehicles?
Okay, rare earth is highly concentrated in China, and rare earth also considered, I think, second or third largest economy where rare earth is actually to be explored, which is in Kazakhstan, neighbors of Uzbekistan. Now, they have started rare earth in Kazakhstan is concerned. At this stage, the government companies are actually trying to explore it. China has full advantage because China has their own rare earth, which is huge so far world demand is concerned. But not based on Chinese production. You can also explore, Indian companies can also explore in Kazakhstan for rare earth. That's one. Secondly, as you know, this whole region, Central Asia and Caucasian defined by Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Armenia, and other five Central Asian republics, they are full of not only gold, the resources defined by not copper, that silvers and then gas, then petrol. So they are ready to convert into industrialized product. As you know, you sometime you mentioned to me that about the pipeline concept, that from Amritsar to Uzbekistan or Tajikistan via Afghanistan, that pipeline was proposed. But then, because of the things, it's not working out. I think government of India is now thinking about that if the gas pipeline is coming routing from Russia or China or Uzbekistan or Tajikistan up to Chabahar, and from Chabahar under sea, under ocean, you can go to Bombay or something like that. But cost-wise, they say that if you are going via Pakistan, Afghanistan, cost-wise is cheaper, but this one is expensive. But perhaps government of India is hesitant to talk about the liquefied gas and other gas. At this stage, the focus is on investment, and the government of India also encouraging other. For example, you might be knowing even public sector company in India, one of the famous Maharatna, MMTC, gold mining company. Uh, uh, they are now arranging some kind of agreement with the Central Asian public sector companies to explore gold. There are huge gold reserve available. They are not explored. Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan is actually fully utilizing that exploration. He's a leader and Kazakhstan is also a leader here. But others are slowly proceeding. Perhaps they are not interested at this stage. Thought that we will explore it later. But full advantage of this situation, two countries who are basically doing very well in Central Asia. One is Kazakhstan, second is Uzbekistan. They are engaged in your this gold business, gold exploration business. And rare earth also similar way. Indian companies, if Kazakhstan making some kind of arrangement in Indian companies, Indian investors coming forward, I think problem is the information, how it are the industry body. You have taken a right initiative, ICC as an industrial lobby body. You have taken the right to share this information that there are resources available, and then we can take benefit. Not necessarily you have to target the Indian market. You produce something here, and then you can easily export from other countries, taking full advantage of the, if you doing business with Europe, from here, producing something here, you have, and Russia in particular, you have tariff advantage as well. So, because you are producing it here. So that advantage is also Indian companies can take. Indian pharmaceutical companies have realized it, and they are engaged in this trade.
Great learning, sir. Now, in this context, our next question is: we feel, through our own studies that multilateralism and WTO is giving way to bilateral trade and free trade agreements. So, in that context, what is the scope of FTAs and bilateral trade agreements between India and Central Asia?
You see, Central Asia will always be ready to sign that agreement with you, because they will find a competitor. Because this region is, so far manufacturing is concerned, this region is actually more or less a market for China and Turkey. If India is coming forward, signing FTA, they'll be happy to sign it. But issue is that the logistic wise, you are not competitive. So you have to go via Chabahar and other things. And coastal space is not cheaper if you compare with that of China and Turkey. That is the major disadvantage. So because of that reason, we feel that Indian investor can come here, produce something, and then full advantage of the other market and Indian market as well. That may be at this stage. If your Pakistan route is clear, the train, direct trains, and all that, perhaps you can really compete with China or Turkey. Turkey is in manufacturing, specifically in textile. As you know, Uzbekistan historically is famous for cotton, high quality cotton. But when they try to convert the cotton into yarn, the issue is that this region has a traditional problem of water. So historically, they decided they will produce cotton, and cotton will be going to Russia for value addition. That yarn and something will be produced to Russia or Turkey. So that is the business. But making cotton to yarn, they feel that the water is the major ingredient here, and they do not have enough water so that they can convert cotton into yarn and then ultimately final products such as the clothes and other things.
Okay, sir. Now, next question is on uranium. The question on supply uranium, coal, crude oil, and in fact, as for you only have said Kazakhstan is the world's largest producer of uranium, and we need
Yes, yes, yes.
nuclear power. So on this question, are we getting these quantities because America may soon impose sanctions on India for importing oil from Russia? We may get adverse reaction, but before that, if you comment on America's reaction, what are India's supply from Central Asia regarding uranium, oil, coal? What are your views? Are we getting these our infrastructure bottlenecks? What?
Now, I am very candid here. In my opinion, this is my opinion. I don't think America or USA is concerned, or they want in Asia the second China will be created. Because China is bigger because thanks to the American market. American has realized it now that China is bigger because their market. So they create all kinds of barrier for Chinese. But you cannot control now. China is big now, is difficult to control. And China feels that market will be growing in Asia because the young population in China, India together, Indonesia together is a huge population and quite active population, less than 30 years old, young populations. If there is a market space for you, all you have to do basically manufacturing. So China is experienced in manufacturing. China feels that if you have resources are available in Central Asia, Central Asia and Russia are available with the European capital. It is possible to nurture it and then create another market, such as the way you have created market in America. The second market may be created in China, what they call actually Asian century. You know, Chinese always use the term Asian century. What was actually Asian century? If you see 200 years before, British India, China together contributed export imports together 52% of the world trade. China, India together. I mean, British India. Now, China feels that was actually Asian century. We dominated trade. So they are trying to convince that century should come back again. In my opinion, perhaps US decision makers are hesitant to accept a second power such as India in Asia. And because of this, and as you said, when you talk about political economy, there will be the barrier here for India. But they are unable to control China now. China is big enough thanks to their market. If China is creating another market in Asia with the help of India, then perhaps it is big enough. And I'm sure America is hesitant to accept it. That is the political economy part. It's my opinion.
Right, sir. Now, coming to say this question of Indian fertilizers, Central Asia is a big market for Indian fertilizers, but India remains untapped. How do we increase the market size for
Okay,
Indian fertilizers?
if you want to know the fertilizer market, what you do basically, we import the raw materials from Middle East countries. We value add it in the form of uranium, urea and TSP and other kinds of products. Same gas, same TSP's contents are available in Central Asia. As I say, it is a highly mineral-rich country. But thing is that when India decide to invest, because the resources are here, but you need capital to explore them. That's the problem. Now, one hand, if Indian companies are actually doing this kind of activities and taking back these resources, the fertilizer and others to India, that's one. Maybe through Chabahar port, that's the only way we have created recently to go to India. Now, if you take the final product, importing raw materials for fertilizer from Middle East countries and creating urea and other things, which will never be a viable economic propositions. In my opinion, if there is a strong demand for fertilizer in this country, Indian investors should be interested here, convert natural resources to fertilizer, chemical fertilizer and other things, and take the full advantage of the centralized market. As I said, resources are here, but where is the fund to explore them? The capital is required. You can argue perhaps when Europeans are not interested, when others are interested. Europeans, perhaps, if you see the capital behavior or FDI behavior, they are no longer, except France, no longer interested in this kind of big investments. Russia may be interested because they are expert, they have expertise in this area. If those conditions are actually created here, I'm sure India can explore market with this fertilizer manufactured here and then selling not only in this region, in other areas. The way we have mentioned the pharmaceutical model, the same model may be developed in this region.
One question is, all along it is coming out that we need the Chabahar port in Iran very well to develop our market in Central Asia. But that means our foreign policy towards Iran should be very conducive or very much.
See, Iran has given this right to us. Signing the agreement was about 3-4 years before. But we paid last year $10 billion to Iran. Iran actually has not created any problem for India of using Chabahar port because they have given rent to India. At this stage, we gathered that Russian coals are coming. Try to understand the coal, Russian coals. The coals, there are two types. One is the ash-free and the full ash contents. Why Indonesian coals or why Australian coals are expensive? Simply, they have less ash contents. But I have gathered from various sources that Russian coals are equally non-ash contents. But price is half of that of Australian price. So, in my opinion, perhaps if we need coal for steel plant, if we need coal for energy, because for steel plant, you need non-ash contents coal. So perhaps it's a wise decision to import coals from Russia and then take it to Chabahar. There is no problem from the Iran side. We have an excellent relationship with this trade is concerned with Iran. Despite the fact the war between Israel and others, Iran never said we'll close the Chabahar port. You in that case, you can give full credit to the diplomacy of the government of India.
Okay, sir. Next question is on India's FDI trends. More or less, sometimes it has been observed India's FDI net FDI is nil. That means India is investing largely in abroad. So, but in Central Asia, we have not been that great an investor. Is it due to lack of knowledge, or what? What is your opinion?
Good point. Now, you are to decide an Indian investor should be coming to Central Asian republics for what purpose? If logic says if they are coming, either take the high-tech products such as pharmaceuticals or healthcare system, one. Second is actually resources. And what are the benefits? So pharmaceuticals market, you get cheaper API here according to document, produce medicine here, sell in this country, and then sell if needed in India or sell to Europe and other countries. It's clear picture. There is no loss here. Second one is actually natural resources. And now, as you said, if fertilizer is produced here, and then where are the demand pattern of the fertilizer? Is basically again going back to India and selling it. Or some other Central Asia may because they have the resources, they cannot convert it or value-added product. They can sell into Caucasian countries and then Central Asian republics. So it's basically investment. In my opinion, perhaps either the Indian investors are hesitant to accept that what are the risks and uncertainty in investing there, or there may be no information inflows. When you need information, you have to know what are the things going on. And there may be information issues here to invest in this part of the world. That is the guiding force, in my opinion.
Now we would engage a few questions in with regard to ASEAN. India has an FTA with ASEAN, which is due for which is presently being reviewed for changes in the current year. Now, the question is, India has removed many tariff barriers to Asian nations, but ASEAN has not reciprocated. As a result, India's trade deficit with ASEAN has been rising over the years substantially. But question is, if India also needs this import, India's growth is import dependent. How? I mean, there are two questions, sir. One is that there's a tariff ban. India's removal of tariff ban is not being removed by ASEAN. And question is, India's trade deficit rising, but at least import growth is import dependent. Why is our growth not domestic production dependent?
Uh, Good, very good questions. And in fact, I think I was going through one of the newspapers here that uh, perhaps that when the ASEAN countries decided that they will take a major decision so far tariff is concerned in exporting their product to India and importing Indian product to their countries. As you know, India is actually quite liberal here, 71% on average, the tariff reductions from ASEAN countries. But then from their side, it's quite nominal. But when you have signed the agreement, we thought it should be reciprocal basis, but it didn't work. Yesterday also mentioned that they're likely to decide, but again said the decision is going to be slowed down and it may take further delay. Now, why this delay? Try to understand. The delay is defined by they feel when you are basically importing something from India, the countries such as Philippines, countries such as Thailand, countries such as Indonesia, countries such as your say, famous 10 countries. Some of the products are actually, one is not clear that how much competitive they are in relation to Indian product. And there are many issues, and I can give you guarantee when they manufacture product in Indonesia, when they manufacture product in Thailand, most of the component cases, component OEM are actually originated from China. Now, what is happening here in kind of air conditioner or any kind of computers, if 70% of the component coming from China and you put some kind of value addition in Thailand and then full advantage of Indian market. That's the thing are going on. Then the concept of rule of origin, these are not clear to us. That how much component of the product should be produced by the exporting countries. It's not clear to us. As a result, it's totally confusion because China is taking full advantage of that situation. Vietnam, for example, as you know, solar plants and others are basically China also argue that the steel or other things are also coming direct to India is also a case of dumping. It's not clear how far argument is actually true. But one thing is very certain. These 10 nations are actually not sure if they reduce the tariff. They're delaying it. In my opinion, that delay is actually deliberate because internal industry perhaps not restructured. And that may be the reason behind so far delay of reciprocation. And in the process, we are the losers, because these things are coming to us, displacing our labor in our country.
So in this same context, is China rerouting its goods to Asian nations, particularly Vietnam? Are these both countries dumping in India? I think India has imposed anti-dumping duties, if I'm not on
Well,
not all some items.
the rule says that according to WTO specification, if the price of that product is less than the market that prescripted rate, it will consider as dumping. So there are arguments that why not India is using the countervailing duties so that they will not be competitive in India. But problem is that so far we are unable to give evidence so far that this is the case of a dumping case. If you consider the solar plant, if you consider some OEMs, say steering or some automobiles, if you consider them actually the dumping case, then perhaps it is a different scenario. But we are unable to give evidence for that legally, that this is a case of dumping case. China clearly mentioned this is not the situation. The way you claim it or you charge us on this particular case. But I must say, in Central Asia, some of the for example, if you hire if you import say some of the say television, for example, a local company, Artel is a quite popular company. Artel, local company, it was built during Soviet time, and Artel is actually what they are doing. They are basically importing the OEMs or components and then finishing the product and selling, because some of the segments, government of Uzbekistan, for example, they said, we will not buy directly television from you. So our Artel will do the value addition parts. How far it will be sustained, I do not know. So far, Artel is actually a player here with the aid of Chinese component, Chinese OEM, producing television, producing air conditioners, refrigerators here. If you come to Uzbekistan, you will surprise that where is LG or where is Haier? You cannot find LG or Haier. You'll find only Artel products. But they, thanks to Chinese components here, because they have restricted that companies can only import the components, not the final products.
What are the other than Vietnam, what are the other countries in ASEAN from whom we are importing hugely, sir?
Indonesia is a major player from so far minerals are concerned. Then you have Malaysia. We also import quite huge from there. But Indonesia is not the manufacturing, it is basically the coal. We quite a good amount of coal from Indonesia. But perhaps when government of India will be successful to import coals from Russia, if Chabhar port is actually quite successful venture, perhaps then the Australian part component of the import of coal and Indonesian part of control will also be changing. Other countries in Southeast Asia, these are the major 10 countries, major player: Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and they're all actually manufacturing type of product. Indonesia is different because they have huge coal-based economy.
Okay, sir. Now we will open the floor for any questions from the audience. Sir, people are free to ask questions to Professor Banik. He will not be available every day. And another question we have on Trump and reciprocal tariffs. On 9 July, the 90 days pause will be over, sir. And these reciprocal tariffs have no economic, I mean, they are same. I mean, this as an economy is very difficult to understand the logic, because they are same rate on inputs and the final products, which will have a cas- have a
Cascade,
cost cascading effect on cost impact. So, and what do you think, that the pause will be further extended, or some ration, or will US will come up with more bilateral trade agreements? What do you
uh,
think?
actually, honestly speaking, try to understand it from the US perspectives. Uh, Total debt $36 trillion. This country is in debt, and of the major contributor of the debt is actually Japan, followed by England, European countries, and China. China is about, it was earlier, a month before it was $1 trillion. Perhaps they have reduced it about 75. I think I think 25% of the 1 trillion they have withdrawn recently. Um, so, uh, what are the ways Mr. Trump can reduce the tariff? I mean, how to cover the $36 trillion they have borrowed from other countries? Uh, he doesn't have any, and they always see that you must buy oil from petrol from us, you must buy diesel from us, you must buy chicken from us, you must buy agriculture from us. These are the things. And if you try to understand the American philosophy, what American can sell to you, chicken, the kind of chicken they have, or the kind of agriculture products that your people will not consume it, because they are different. Well, some of the products say we are now doing a good job. We are balancing now some proportion of the energy, petrol and diesel coming from Russia, and some proportion coming from America. We have started doing it, uh, but uh, he thought that we are indebted to everybody. Our balance of trade is actually a deficit with each of the countries. So each of the countries should take the burden also. If I have open economy for you, you should also open economy for me. You have not opened, I have opened it. That's his philosophy. Uh, but one thing should also be understood, that the product they produce, that product is not consumable. I mentioned some of the agricultural products not in India. So what they can do now, they ask us, why not importing wheat from us? Why not importing rice from us? Uh, but if you take on average, study says on average our subsidy rates, how much? Maybe 15 or 20% subsidy, something like that. Uh, American subsidy, I must say, to the farmers is more than 15% subsidies. So when you say that I'm competitive in agricultural product, is it true that you are competitive? They said always charge us that you subsidize in agriculture. Uh, there are many projects, many verifications on that. It was not actually reflected so far their irrigation or charge are concerned. But yes, the only tools he thought that I must at least reduce this $36 trillion to 30 or $29 trillion in next 5 years. I don't think in this process we will be able to successful or not. It's quite doubtful. But what he can do, if you are basically take a rationale of his policy of tariff rates, uh, he has the only way is actually charge the tariff so that you. But then, when tariff will be increased, the products will be expensive in America, and he feels that American, Indian, and Chinese will be going there to produce something, so that they will they come with the money, not with the product, invest in my country and enjoy the market. So, what demographic structure is concerned in American situation, it is not possible. You need more labor to produce those manufacturing. So, it's a quite challenging question you have asked, and then there are multiple thoughts on that and how to go about that from the Americans' point of view. Now, from our point of view, is actually they charge what they do. We earn perhaps our average earning from about $200 to $300 billion from them. The kind of product we sell to them is actually, even if they said India's case, because it is based on a model, and they decided how much is the import, how much the export, and then multiply by something. Then they found out that Indians' rate would be 26% or something like that. But then, even then, how suddenly China's case is 147, and as you know, China has retaliated as well. And China is actually perhaps has taken a decision that we can grow minus USA also. Basically nurturing Asian market, taking resources, money, capital from Europe, and he's thinking in a different way. China is thinking on a different way. So US situation is concerned just reducing the tariff and they reduce their debt burden is not a linear solution. He must be thinking about it. With the policymakers and others. It's not a single way of understanding the situation, complex situations.
So, sir, to sum up, what I am learning from you is that the free market economy does not create welfare for all the stakeholders. The state needs to work with the market for the benefit of its citizens. Am I right or am I wrong?
You are quite right. It means market is good, but market should be regulated, facilitated. Regulators are important, facilitators are important. Without doing it, just market is not a viable solution for a typical welfare society.
Any questions, audience, or then we will wind up now as we are reaching our end of the session. Okay, sir. As of now, there are no questions. If questions come later, we will send across to you, sir. So, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir, and we would like to wind up for today.
Thanks for this opportunity to you. I think I have enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.